I was like reading this book and I'm like, okay, so she's massacring thousands of people. If she becomes the empress, ain't nobody gonna be left to pay taxes. She gonna be poor. That was my whole logic of her killing people. Like, ain't nobody gonna be there to pay you taxes. Then what are you gonna do? What job are you gonna get?
Nothing. They're all dead.
Exactly. Welcome to the Novel Universe with Dawn and Ashley, book club buddies who love to read YA fiction. We'll discuss the good, the bad, the ugly, and oh my gosh, we need to talk about this right now. I'm Dawn, the criticizer of books.
And I'm Ashley, the fantasy architect.
So grab something sweet or salty and join our universe.
Hi guys, and welcome back to the Novel Universe with your hostesses Ashley and Dawn. Today we are going to be discussing our last YA novel of the year 2020. We are ending it with a big finale of Sabaa Tahir's last book in the Ember and the Ashes series titled A Sky Beyond the Storm. As always, we will start this recording with our non-spoiler edition, and then we will let you know when you need to hop out because we're going to spoil some things for you towards the end.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get started. I'm like super excited to talk about this book.
Okay.
Dawn and I have not talked about this book yet, so we're both kind of like, ooh. All right, so what did you rate it?
So I gave it a 3.75. Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry. I know.
She knew she was going to break my heart.
I'm sorry.
I gave this book a 4.5.
Wow, okay.
I did not have a lot that I did not like about this book.
Dawn has a whole page of dislikes.
Yep. So you will be listening to Dawn, and I'll probably be like, oh, okay, well, I don't know. That's fine. All I really have to say, though, is, like, I'm really glad it took her as long as it did to finish the series out, because I think that it was reflected in her work versus how book 2 felt. Like, it was very rushed. Mm-hmm. And then there were some things in book 3 that were like, what? Where did that just come out of? You know, and so with this book overall, I feel like it was a great way to at least end this series. We got some closure on a lot of areas, in my opinion. Like, she really did a good job of at least summing everything together, all of the things that she put us down. I felt like everything had an ending. Now, I might not have agreed with some endings, but everything ended. Whereas some authors kind of leave you like, what? What was that? So that was my first thoughts about this book. So, okay. Dawn.
All right.
Why don't you start us off on your dislikes? I have one little tiny dislike.
Okay. Well, okay, so these first ones did not affect my rating, so I guess they would be considered nitpicks. But my first dislike was, I do not like that she introduced 4 new prophecies in this last book. If I'm not mistaken, these prophecies were not in the first 3 books. Right?
Some of them were, I think it was the end of the prophecy. So it's like we only got like bits and pieces of the prophecy given to us throughout each of the books. And so like there was one last line of prophecy that Cain, I believe, gave to Elias.
Okay. But the main prophecy where it was like, if one dies, you all die, that was not, I don't recall that. Anyway. Dawn loves a prophecy. Yeah. So I pay attention when a prophecy is written. And my issue with that is it feels like, and I could be wrong, and there are several instances, and I will say throughout my dislike section, which might be a long while, but it seems like because she introduced these prophecies in the last book, whereas many authors will put it in the first book, it seems like her series wasn't planned out as thoroughly as it should have been. It was like she was, let's add in a new prophecy because I need my book to go this way. Whereas if she had the book planned out from the beginning, the series, then the prophecy should have been in the beginning of the series. Like, Kiss of Deception is at the very beginning. The Reader, There Will Come a Darkness, like all their prophecies, even Game of Thrones, it's in book 1. They're all in book 1. Harry Potter's, I think the big prophecy was in like book 4, the Order of the Phoenix, I think. But with the exception of, but that's still in the middle. Like, I didn't like that she introduced so many prophecies because now she's just adding more story to an already big story. So that was
okay.
one. Do I keep going or are you going to jump in?
No, you can keep going because, I mean, yeah, okay. I disagree. I felt as though her, with the prophecies, I feel like it was like part of like retrieving the star. So it's like we were given like these little pieces for a reason, like at different times. There was only, in my recollection, there was only one part that I was like, oh, that's a new line of prophecy. But I felt like it was a finishing piece for the prophecy. Because the rest of them were brought from the first book and in the second book and into the third book. So I didn't feel that way. But I could also be like, you know, it's been a while since I read book 1 and book 2 and book 3. So I could have also missed that those were not new.
Maybe. I don't remember, but I could be wrong because my memory is not the best with this series. I don't remember much. Well, my next nitpick is Remat. Was this a new character? Okay. So I feel like this is a very pivotal character, once again, introduced in book 4, not mentioned in the previous books. And she kind of had a Deus Ex Machina moment where she gave Leah another power to help her out at the end of the series. Like, that should have been introduced early because now she has a way out. Miraculously has a way out now. Or, I'm not going to say specifically because it's a spoiler, but her new magic is. But, and that's why I say once again, I feel like the series isn't planned out. And I know authors can't always plan out their book. Like, I know Sabaa, she wrote this book. She didn't have a series deal when she finished this book because I went to lunch with her when she was debuting her book at ALA. And her publisher was sitting at the table with us. And she was like, hey guys, tell them we need a book too. So I don't even think she wasn't even optioned to continue the series, but it still feels like she was kind of, I'm not going to say making it up as she goes along, but I just feel like she was adding more stuff as the series went on. Okay. I felt like sometimes the voices were very similar. So sometimes when I read books, I don't read the chapter heading. And I was reading the chapter and I would have to go back because I didn't know if it was Elias or Helene talking. They kind of seem to have similar voices, and I don't like that. I always kind of pick that out when that happens. I didn't like the Commandant's motive at all. And this is a really big not a big nitpick, but this is a nitpick. So this happened several times in the book where a character was about to give vital information and something interrupted them. It happened like 4 times. And that is just like cheap tension. I don't like that, especially when it happens so many times because she's like holding back important information that would move her plot along. And it's frustrating for the reader because one of my big problems with the book is it's too long. It's like 50 pages too long. By 60%, I was kind of over it. And so when all the big stuff happened at the end, I didn't care. And it's unfortunate because those were big moments. I was just flipping through pages, like, and when I start skipping pages, the stars drop. And I was skipping whole pages of, like, detail, and I would just, like, look for dialogue because I stopped caring. I just wanted the story to continue. And that was going to lead me into why I lowered my rating. So you go ahead and give your nitpick.
Yeah, I'm so sad for you.
Yeah.
Because I had like a completely different experience with this book. Whereas you had said that like you felt like there was a couple of times where like, the characters had the same like tone of voice. And I like did not get that whatsoever. but it's interesting to me because like everybody reads books differently. Like you picked up on things that I was like, well, I really, that didn't bother me that much. Or I didn't think about it that way. My biggest thing that I have a nitpick about was the Commandant's reasoning for her violence.
Yeah.
I did not feel it was this big overarching thing. It was a very simple matter, which, mind you, I mean, we talked about this with like Snow from Songbirds and Snakes. We had this out about like, how does a villain become a villain? Like, are they born that way? Does something tragic happen? Or is it like a mixture of both? What are the catalysts that turn them into what they are? And when we find out what happens to the Commandant, I was like, that's it? Like, I was expecting more to happen from that. And it was very simple, which at the same time, like, I don't know if she did it to sum up that character rather quickly, because I felt like Karis, the Commandant, was such a leading character in all of these books, and for her to have that one moment where it was like, oh, that's why you're the way that you are, I was a little bit disappointed, because I was like, that's it. It's not like it's a little thing either. It's just a very simple thing. So that was the reason why I originally had this book at a 5, and I lowered my rating with that, because I was like, that's it? Really?
Yeah.
Like, and it's to some people, they might be like, okay, like, I'm okay with that closure, but for how much like slaughter came of the Commandant, how she just massacred all these people and so much hatred, you're just like, there's got to be an overarching thing that just keeps reoccurring versus one moment in her life that determined the whole course of her destiny. So, that was my biggest and only dislike of this book, that I was like, oh, I was a little disappointed.
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons why I lowered my rating too, because the Commandant is a huge presence in the first book, and in the not so much in the second book, but a lot. The third book, yeah, but like her character continues to decline as far as presence as the books go on, and my issue with that, I guess, is that I love the Commandant as a villain in book 1. The Commandant was one of my favorite villains in YA. She was a great character, and she was never on the page in book 2, in book 3, and she showed up a couple times in this book. And it was like Sabaa decided that the Nightbringer is going to be the new villain. I don't give a shit about the Nightbringer. I like the Commandant because she was far more complex in book 1, and we sympathized with her. Like, she had a great backstory in the first book, and then all of a sudden her ending was like, really? That's it? I was very upset.
I was too, and usually I'm like, oh, they got him or whatever, and I was like, I feel like she deserved more of an encore.
She did.
Am I mistaken? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Because she was a huge presence for me in the third book, like when Laia goes to live in her, oh my gosh, what is it called? Where she goes to live there. I forget what it's called. I apologize. And she meets the cook, and like, her mom, who's the cook, and she is, on a secret mission and whatever. And like, we learn all about like the Nightbringer then, like even more in detail, and the Commandant at the same time. And it's like, okay, so now there's 2 villains, but I feel like one got gypped.
Yeah, I agree. So I already mentioned that the book was too long, but it was also like too repetitious. Like, it was a lot of hype men, I want to say, by that I mean, you can do it, you're a good person, come on, the people love you. It was a lot of people giving affirmation and hyping them up constantly, and it got annoying. And then it was a lot of Elias having the same conversations with different people that I don't need to hear about. I know the Nightbringer's motive. I don't need to hear you tell it to 5 different people, and it's not moving the plot along. It's just him telling more people. I'm like, okay. And it was at about 60, like I said, it was about 60% where it started to go down for me. I don't think I was ever going to give it higher than a 4, because of my other reason why I lowered it is I personally think the story is too convoluted. And I started to feel that way in book 3. And this is once again why I say I think she was just kind of adding stuff as she was going along, because there were so many new things happening starting in book 3 and into this book, where we have new characters, new major characters, new magical people, and new powers, and new people dying, and that causes more issues, and all of the war stuff, and then this group of people is invading this group of people in this part of the country, and it was just became so big. I don't know, when a world is too big, I don't know what the author wants me to focus on, so then I focus on nothing, and then by the time the next book comes out, I have forgotten everything. I didn't even remember that Livy had a baby. That's a huge thing. Her baby is the Emperor. It was in book 3. I don't remember any of that. And it's like, she has so much stuff crammed in here, I can't remember anything. And that was one of my biggest issues. It was just too much. It wasn't confusing. I never felt overwhelmed. It was just, oh, I don't remember that. Oh, I don't remember that. However, I can tell you practically everything that happens in Throne of Glass, because the story was simple enough that I can remember important details from book to book. And I didn't read that book in one sitting. We read those books as they were coming out. And I remembered everything from the previous book, like important stuff, because she kept her story and her world simple enough, but she enriched it with characters and relationships. Whereas this is just more war, more magic, more characters. It's like, oh my God, it's just too much. And so that was probably my biggest problem. Her world was just too big, even for 4 books and 520 pages. It was just more room for her to add more stuff.
Maybe she felt like she owed it to her readers to kind of give them a big bang. You know, like, here you go, last hurrah. It's all out there on the page. And I almost wonder, because, like, there were some moments in book 2 in particular, and then even leading into book 3, where I was like, I feel like we're missing parts of the story. Like, that there was a lot more supposed to be added at those times versus us getting all of it in the 4th book. Because as I was reading it, I was having the adverse reaction. I was like, oh, well, that makes sense. Okay, give me more. Because now I'm totally on page with you as to where all these people came from. But I agree, though, with your statement with the Throne of Glass series. I could tell you everything that happens in each book, individually, where I did have to go back for book 3 and do a freaking recap, because I was like, who are all these people again? You know, but then once I did, I was like, oh, okay. So, yeah, I think you do have some good points with it. That's for sure. You know, there was a lot, and if you're not ready for it, and if you are like the rest of the world that has been waiting for this book to come out, you might have to do a bunch of recapping so you don't miss out. Because I'm glad I did, or else I feel like I would have felt like you, where I was like,
I watched the video you sent me, and it was helpful, but I was still like, this world is too big. It's just too big. And maybe, it's not unfair to compare to Throne of Glass that has 8 books in the series, and this is only 4. That's not fair either. But even still, between years that, and I think it took Mass maybe a year between each book, and these books took her a little bit longer. If you were like us and you were waiting in between books, a lot of people would just binge the whole series when the last book came out, so they had that advantage, and we didn't. I forgot chunks of information. My last thing, and once again, this also lowered it, was, and this kind of goes along with what you were saying with the Commandant, I felt the same thing about the Nightbringer. That his motive was something I've heard before. It was very familiar. And I know that plots are recycled, and themes are recycled, and characters are recycled. I know that. But then it's up to the author to kind of make their book stand out. And even though she has jinns and ifrits, and I'm probably saying that wrong, wraiths and all that stuff, which is cool, because we don't really see that a lot in YA, it still wasn't enough to make her book special. I feel like I've read this story several times already. The Nightbringer, I've read him several times, and when I have read the same story in a different book, I tend to dislike it. That's why I like the 5th season so much, is because I've never read that world before. I've never read those characters before, and so that makes it special. Whereas this one, I've read this already. I've seen this on TV already. It's like, oh, and that ending bit, man, with the Nightbringer, I was just like, once again, really? That's it? That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's
no,
all
I get
dislikes.
you. I'm sorry.
I mean, I honestly did not want to read this book. I was like, on Thursday, I was like, God, why did I agree to read this book? Because I had a bad feeling that I wasn't going to really like it. It's not that I didn't like it. I just didn't love it as much as I would have loved to, because I really did love the first book. And it just, I was dreading reading this book. I pushed it off as far as I possibly could, because I just knew this was going to happen. That's all.
Which is so sad. It's so sad that it did that to you. But I feel like you just don't know. You know, my thing was that I wanted to see how it ended. I was like, I have put way too much time and energy into this series. Yeah. I'm going to see how this ends. Well, are we ready to move on to likes? Yep. Do you have any likes?
Yeah, I have likes.
You didn't give it a 1, so you have some likes.
I have likes.
Okay, so one of my biggest likes with this book was that which counters one of your dislikes, is that I really enjoyed the fact that Sabaa did expand her world and her characters the way that she did, because my brain works better that way. I'm the fantasy architect here. Like, I love worlds. Give it to me. Give me all of the new stuff. Like, it hypes me up. I'm all excited about it. And my biggest thing that I liked was the fact that there was a lot of attention to secondary characters that have followed us through this whole series. And I enjoyed that. It wasn't just Elias, Leia, Helene, and the Nightbringer story. I enjoyed the fact that we got to see Darren and Musa and Taz and Harper and Dex and Kane and like all of these other people that have kind of followed us through the story. Oh, and Nicola and Livia and all of them. That much I really did like. That it wasn't just like, here's more characters and you get no information about them. Okay. Because we've had that happen.
Yeah. Yeah, the new characters that I liked a lot, I forgot about Musa in book 3. I don't even remember him at all in the book. And this is what I'm talking about. It's so much. It's just, I don't remember major characters like this from book to book. And I don't think that should happen. But I did like Musa. I did like his, is it wraiths or waiths? Wraiths?
Wraiths. They're wraiths.
Wraiths. I like their little communication with the wraiths. I thought that was really cool. And my favorite is still Helene and Harper. I really like Helene. She's always been my favorite since book 2. Actually, I liked her in book 1 too. I've never been a fan of Leia. I think she was better in this book, but I've never been a big fan of her at all. And I've always really liked Helene, so when it was her chapters, I really was like, oh yay, it's Helene's turn. I liked her story. She's a great character. I kind of wish she was I don't know. I kind of wish she was more of the focus. Obviously, Leia is the focus, but I thought Helene was better written.
And that's okay. I actually fell way more in love with Helene in this book because I had an issue with her in the first book. Because I was like, no, you cannot have Elias.
I wanted her with Elias.
Are together. No, you cannot have her. Like, I was totally like against it, and I started to have some emotional connection to Helene in the third book, and then in this book, I really just felt like, oh my gosh, this girl believes. She believes and is broken for this stupid empire, and no one cares. No one cares that she's bleeding and broken all over the place. I'm like, can you just give her a moment of happiness? Like, and let her continue to have that happiness. Like, I wanted that for her so much. And even, has how her story ends. I'm just like, oh, but I want more for you. I want more for you. You should have everything.
Exactly. I agree.
So that part I really enjoyed her and Harper's relationship. I enjoyed what it brought out in the both of them and the fact that we were even given that. I really enjoyed that part. I'm not going to say too much because of spoilers.
Yes.
And Laya in this book, she was not annoying to me. My first thing that I wrote down, I was like, good for you, girl. Do not be weeping over the boy that has sold his soul to the moth. He is soul catcher. He is dead. He is no longer a part of your life. You cannot hold on to him. You don't need him. The only time she stops and she stays is because she needs him to move her so she can get to another spot to stop this war. Yeah. And I heavily applauded that because so many times, authors will write these big heroine characters, and they're so hung up on a guy, and that's their whole thing. And she was like, no, I have promised to do this. I know what my calling is. I'm going to do it whether you are here or not. If I have to play dirty, I'll play dirty. Go ahead, girl. Do it. Because there were moments where I was like, please don't put them, together right now. It's not right. Please don't. And Dawn knows me. I'm not usually that type of person, but I was like, do it. You're so strong. Come on, don't do it.
Yeah.
So I did appreciate that. I felt like she at least finished Laya well.
Yes, in book 1, she was not my favorite. Book 2, I hated her a lot. Book 3, I was like, she's getting better. And I think she was less of a dummy in this one. She was a dumb ass in the first 2 books. Oh my God. And I liked her a lot in this one. She was not a damsel. Yes, she got captured multiple times, but sometimes she got herself out of her own jam. I was like, yay. And I also liked that even though she knew that Elias was like, fine, I'm the soul catcher, whatever, she was like, I love you, I'm in love with you, and I'm going to tell you. Now, I don't care if you don't want to hear it. I don't care if it's uncomfortable for you. I'm going to tell you. It doesn't mean that I'm going to stop my life for you, but I'm still going to tell you. And I really liked that she kept saying, I love you, I'm in love with you, I'm in love with you. And he was just like, okay.
I am soul catcher. No, you're Elias.
Yeah.
And then that whole moment where all of a sudden he's like, a little bit of him is finally coming back to the surface. He's like, no, I'm Elias to you, when she addresses him as soul catcher. And I was like, that's right. That's right. That's okay. I am okay with what's happening right now.
Yeah.
What's another like of yours?
I think that, and this has always been the case since book 1, Sabaa is a good writer. Even from the first page, I was like, okay, here we go. This was upper level writing as far as YA is concerned. Especially YA fantasy can be tough for authors to write well. She can write a good world. It's a little bit too much, but she writes a good world. She has interesting ideas. The words on the page are beautiful. Of course, I'm going to read the next thing by her, but I did enjoy her writing. The pacing issues, but the actual writing I really did like.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there, because I was immediately sucked right into this book, which I have not gotten a lot of this year, and it's been really disappointing. You and I have talked about this with our YA experiences lately. We're just like, it's just not good. I'm getting sucked into book 1, and then book 2 is awful. And what are you doing to me? Why would, we've had some authors that we've had to say, I'm never reading your books again because you've just gone downhill. And I was really hoping that this, I was like, please don't be another dud. Please don't do this to me. 2020 already sucks as it is. Do me some good. So I applaud the fact that to me, this book made sense. I loved how things were wrapped up. I loved how the story was told. Yes, there are some pacing issues, but hey, you know what? I'll take what I can get, because at least I was like sucked into it. I haven't spent multiple hours just sitting in one spot to soak in a book in a very long time. I think the last time it happened was when we were reading the Bromance Book Club.
Yeah.
Where I was like, oh dear God, I'm eating this whole book up. You know, like just wanting to know what happens. And that happened with this book. So I applaud her for that she's still able to suck everybody back into her world as complex as it is. She still has the ability to at least pull us in to the journey.
Agreed.
So,
yeah.
And how did you feel about? Well, I had one more thing that I liked about this book.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed Elias, and I will say this because I feel like there could have been a moment in this book where, Elias has sold his soul to Moth. He's going to be the soul catcher. Like, he is no longer alive. He's still alive but human. But anyway, he's stuck there until the next person comes around. I liked the fact that Elias was first and foremost to his duty. Like, he was always like, this is my job. Whether I like it or not, this is what I have accepted to be my present and what I'm going to do. And I'm going to honor that, and I'm going to continue to do it well. Even though his whole entire life has been planned out for him since the day he was born, he still continues with, nope, this is my path, and I'm going to stick to it. And I appreciated that, because I feel like there could have been an early cop-out with Elias's soul-catching business, and that didn't happen. And I did enjoy that.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
But yeah, that's all I have for our non-spoilers. Do you have any more?
Do you want to talk about themes in this one? I think we should.
Sure.
We don't have to go deep into spoilers. I only really picked out two major themes. There was probably more, but and this is a quote from the book: "All the murdering, the smashing, and the forgetting." That seemed to be kind of an overall theme of war, and you shouldn't be a killer and forget all the people that you kill, because then that turns you into the commandant. Even though you are a soldier and your job is to kill people, you still should value their life and hope that they do the same for you. So that's all I'll say, because there's spoilers associated with that.
Yeah, no, I agree. That was definitely one of them. Was like what was the other one? I think you could say another one of the themes is repentance and what that actually looks like. Like, just because I did something bad before doesn't mean that defines who I am continuing forward. There's this whole point that, like, I can still do good in the world even though I've done bad things, but I can change to be good. And because that was definitely played out in a lot of the characters. I was like, oh, okay, like, I get it. Like, and at least that wasn't like all over the place where it's like, what is the theme here? You know, what are we trying to go for? So I agree with you.
Yeah. The other theme I picked out was suffering, and I mean, Leah says this at the very end. I know we call her Leia, Lalila. I don't know how to say that girl's name. Leia.
I think it's Laia, but
Laia. I get
on Audible it was Laia.
Laia? Okay.
It was Laia.
Because on Kiss of Deception, isn't her name Laia too? Lilia? I don't know. So I always get them mixed up. Suffering. At the very end, Laia says, basically, what we choose to do with our hurt is what's important. Once again, spoilers, not going to really go into it, but there's a lot of people suffering in this book. But the way of dealing with it is what's important. So, and you see that as the book progresses.
100%.
Yeah. That's all I have. That is spoiler free.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to start the spoiler edition in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Dun, dun, dun. Well, should we talk about the big elephants in the room?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have to admit, you guys, I cried at least 3 times.
Wow.
Which is why I gave this book the rating that I did, because it inflicted so much emotion. I did not realize that I was going to be that heartbroken about things. Sabaa does not have any mercy towards any of her characters. They are all up for grabs, every single one of them. And when you think things are going to go a certain way, you're like, why? Why are you being so vicious to me? But the first one I want to talk about is Livia. Oh my gosh. I was so distraught with the fact that, Livia has gone through so much with being, she bore Marcus's son, Zacharias, and now she's running an emperor that she wants nothing to do with. She wants to just raise her son out in the wild, and not be a part of any of it, because she's like, this is no place for him. He needs to be able to have friends and not be surrounded by guards all the time and in hiding. And Livia is the only living relative that Helene has left. It's her last lifeline to this earth. And we see her get massacred by none other than the Commandant. And first of all, the Commandant throws Zacharias across the room, and I was like, oh my gosh, no! And then just kills her right then and there. And I was like, I can't watch this. I was so heartbroken for Helene, because I was like, no, she deserves to have someone left. I mean, her mother and father are dead. Her other sister is dead. Come on. This poor girl. Oh.
Yeah, at some point, so Livy, I was shocked that Livy died. Harper, I was not. And by that point, I was just angry, because there was no point for Harper to die. Livy, yeah. No. I think Livy, the whole point of her dying was to give Helene more of a push she needed to get the Commandant. So I can understand the Livy. Did I like it? No. But Harper's death was unnecessary. It was unnecessary. And I hate it when authors do this, where they leave the main character with no one. This is the second time I've read this, and I didn't like it. And we can talk about, I'm not going to say which book it is, because spoiler if you guys haven't read it. But I'm going to hold the book up to Ashley so she can see what I'm talking about. Can you see the back of my read? Have you finished that series?
No.
Which one?
Which one are you looking at? I can't see.
You finished.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
I fucking hated all of that. It made me so angry. Even though I was sobbing my eyes out, it made me very angry. And with this one, I knew it was going to happen, so I didn't cry. It just made me upset. There was no point in killing him.
I was so upset about Harper, because Helene's gift is healing. It's in her song. Please tell me why her song saved no one in this book.
I don't know.
Her song saved no one.
Did she even try?
She did, but he was literally gone. She had no time. It even said that his song was on her lips, and as she started to sing, he was already gone. There was no way to retrieve him. And at that moment, I was sad, angry, because I'm like, he did not have to die. Give this woman something to hold on to in this life. She has sacrificed so much. I was even upset with the vow that she makes to the people when she becomes empress. Yes, she very well, darn well should be the empress. She has done everything and lost everything for this country, and she still could not get a bit of happiness. Who is she left with? Her brother, whose dad was horrid to her. Or not her brother. Oh my gosh, her brother. her nephew. She's left with him, and he is a memory of a horrible man and her sister mixed into one. And she's also left with Musa, who has also suffered so much for this empire. And it's just like, I get the whole point that the theme was suffering in this book. It was one of them, like we talked about. I was like, she should have had Harper. Like, she should have had somewhat of a happy ending. Mm-hmm. Why take that away from her? You know, I was actually not expecting Elias and Laia to get back together, like in human form.
I did.
I was half expecting them to like figure out a way, like they've made a deal with Moth, and because she has the Remont's power or whatever within her, that she's able to go and visit Elias, and like they still can remember their love for each other and still be in love with each other, but they can never be together. Like, you know, I was so upset for Helene that I was like, it did not have to happen.
And I feel like with, I think it was Ferris, that's his name, right? Ferris's death was even important because it showed her that people would die for her. You know, that's important to be the emperor, the empress, or emperor, whatever you want to call it. That people are willing to lay their life down for you. He loves her unconditionally, and it gave her the oomph to just keep fighting. And that death was awful. I still didn't cry, but man, was that hard. And I don't even fucking remember Ferris. But just because she loved him, I was like, no. You know what it reminded me of? Oh, you don't watch Game of Thrones. Dang it. Okay, I'm not going to say. But there's a scene in Game of Thrones where it's just like, oh, God, no. And just reminded me of that. So, yeah.
Ferris's death reminded me of Gavriel's death in the Throne of Glass series, where he just goes out and is like, I'm gonna hold the wall.
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
There's a scene like that in Game of Thrones. In episode 3, season 8, where Arya gets saved by somebody. I'm like, oh God, no. Why?
But that was, so Ferris for me was, you know, Gavriel from the Throne of Glass series. I was like, oh God, why? You know, and this was at the beginning of the book. People are dying from her. I'm like, what are you, just plagued with death? Like,
well,
that's a sign of her prophecy. Hello, plagued by, or will pay the blood tithe. That was her prophecy, is that she would pay the blood tithe. Well, okay, well, she has literally lost everyone, all of it.
Yeah, she didn't have a happy ending. At the end, she was just like, I'm never going to get married. I'm never going to have kids. Raising my nephew. Fuck you guys. Musa, let's hang out. I was like, okay.
I know. My brain was like, well, you and this, like, middle-aged man are going to, like, you know, just be a thing on the side because y'all understand each other.
Pretty much. That's what I'm going to take away. She gets a little booty from the beekeeper on the side, and I'm okay with that.
And he was okay with it, too.
I'm not okay with it, but I'm going to have to be.
He was like, it's you and me, girl. It's fine. We'll just... You don't want me to leave. It's cool. I was like, oh, God. But that scene where Harper takes her down into, like, I want to just call it, like, a catacomb area of, you know, the palace that they're staying in, and he just, like, lets her scream and break things as she's just losing her mind because she's supposed to, you know, she's a blood strike. She has no emotion. She is just literally bred to kill everybody that she has to for the sake of the empire and for the emperor. And Harper made her realize what it was like to have emotion, and that it's okay to love. It's okay to grieve. It's okay to let it all out. Like, you're not made of stone, even though, like, there were so many times where I was like, this girl is going to bleed out on the battlefield. She is just, I don't know how she was hanging together with how many battles they were in. Mm-hmm. But I was so sad for her. I was angry about Harper. I was crying because I was angry. I was like, this is not Harper. You know, but at the same time, like, it's good storytelling. It's evoked emotion in me. I'm angry about it. I'm sad.
I don't think it's good storytelling. I think it's shitty. I didn't like that at all. At all.
And I pined for Darren to die. I knew that Darren was going to die. Yeah. I still cried. I was upset that he died because he's also Laya's last lifeline to the world, and he goes up to save her. And I'm like, how come all these people are like going to save our main characters and they're all dying? They're all dying. Every single one of them. Their necks have been broken and dead.
Darren, he was pointless from go. Like, his whole character was only there to die. Mm-hmm. I wasn't going to get invested in that guy. It was just, like, no.
But see, I knew that Darren would die. I was like, there's no way that he's going to live. But Harper, you didn't have to do that to me. You did not have to.
She was going to kill him. When she said, let war claim me first, and I was like, oh, well, he's a goner. Don't get attached.
Oh, man. Oh. Well, and I just... I really liked that that part where they kept bringing back in the loyal to the end. You know, may death claim me first. Always victorious. Like, these themes were like not themes, but quotes were done throughout each of the books.
Okay.
And I really did like that. How did you feel about Mammy, the Kahani, the storyteller lady, taking Zacharias as her, like, son to raise him?
Oh, girl, I was checked out by then. I don't even remember that happening. I guess, didn't Mamie raise Elias?
She did.
Okay, yeah.
She did, yeah.
So,
yeah. You know, and that was like the joke of it, because Helene was like, are you sure? And she goes, well, I have raised some boys in my time and they turn out okay. Like, as a joke to her that she could do it. I liked that because I felt like it symbolized the fact that, like, now the scholars and the Mariners are, like, coming together for once, and the tribes people, they're all unifying. There's no more death of just one particular band of people. You know, it's now signifying this is going to be the change. Yes, he is going to be the future emperor. He should probably live with people that he has no idea their ways. So that part I really did like. How did you feel? Okay, so I wrote about Cain, the Agar, and I was like, how is this broad still alive? I thought he was dead, and I wrote, he's still hanging on.
I didn't even remember who that was. I was like, who the hell is Cain? And I had to go look at the wiki. And I was like, oh, that guy. Whatever. I didn't care. I didn't care about him. Sorry.
Okay. My next line is the lioness. Laya's mom. This bat does not want to die.
That's where I was just like, you gotta be freaking kidding me with this. Oh my God, no. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Just more crap. Coming in.
Well, and it's like we've grieved the loss of Laya's mother twice now. Mm-hmm. And this broad still don't want to die. She's still alive. I'm like, oh, hey, homegirl, where you been? We needed you, and you've been just, like, hiding out so no one could see you because your grand plan was to take out the commandant. That was her whole purpose, you know. And then the part where she's, like, floating in the waiting place, you know, hiding. So, you know, Karis doesn't know about her. Elias doesn't know about her. The only one that knows about her is Karis's mom, who's, like, crazy, you know, who's still hanging on to death. But at that point in time, I was like, why, you know, like Laya's mother was supposed to signify, you know, she's the mother to all, right? Like, she has loved and cared for each and every one of them to an extent. And she's done bad things in order to have good things happen. You know, and she's like, don't blame my daughter. Just give me that boy, the soul catcher. He doesn't need to be in the soul catcher. I'm done. I'm done living now. I've done everything I needed to do. And I was like, I was okay with that part the fact that Elias got an easy ticket out of being Soul Catcher, and he got to actually live his life for once and choose what he wanted to do, because his life's been planned out for him his whole entire life. But I didn't see it being Laya's mom.
Well, no, nobody saw that, because she just brought her back for that.
Just popped her back in for that one purpose.
Yeah.
I was like, well, what was it was just a matter of, because I couldn't even comprehend it. I'm like, does she have has she sworn a blood oath that she is going to kill the commandant, and only her and her alone is able to do it? Like, because of all of these things before, because the commandant killed her family, like some, old blood feud, I guess is what that would be called. But yeah. What are some of your thoughts?
Well, let me look at my notes here. What I was saying about the themes, especially the suffering, no. The murdering and the smashing and the forgetting was just at the very end. Is that one? Oh, yeah. There were some good moments with Leia, and when she didn't accidentally kill the Jinn, but she killed one of the Nightbringer's Jinns. That was really sad.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, ugh, that was sad. But then the suffering theme, where at the very end, Helene was very close to becoming the commandant. She was just like, kill all the Jinn and Jinn kill it. And then it just would have kept the war going. And Leia and Elias were like, no, we can't do that. We have to forgive. And we can't let our suffering define the rest of our life like the commandant did and the Nightbringer did. And that's where I think the theme kind of played out really well, is because Helene made a choice and she was very close to becoming the commandant and she didn't. So I did like how that theme kind of like summed up really nicely. If anything summed up nicely at the end, it was that.
I did like that, because I expected all of this bloodshed to happen. Because they've been waiting for so long to take out the Nightbringer and to get the Jinn back to where they need to be. And you need to be ushering the ghosts into the waiting place. And, the balance is now off. And that moment where it was like, no, I'm not going to kill anymore. I'm going to ask you to be a bigger person. I'm going to ask you to remember what's happening here, that we don't have to be this way. And I was like, oh, all right, Elias. All right. And Elias was bred for becoming the next Strike. Like, he was supposed to be the next Blood Strike. And he's the one saying, y'all, we need a TO, guys.
Well, he didn't want to be a soldier anyway. Like, he was trying to find ways to escape the entire time of book one. So, which made sense to his character.
Yeah, but he still was killing just because that's in his blood.
Yeah.
To just kill. And it was in Laya's blood, too. I mean, she's had so many people taken away from her yet again. And she's like, enough is enough. If I have to kill him, I will. And even in that ending moment, I was glad that there was another hidden agenda for that. Like, the sheath wasn't the way that the Nightbringer died. It was actually his release, to becoming this super revengeful being that's like, screw you all. Like, I'm no longer the beloved. I am no longer wanting to love anyone. I'm just gonna create chaos because I have had enough. And the whole point of the Jinn Queen, the Remat, is that how you say her name?
That's how I've been saying it.
And her name meaning mercy, and what that means to encapsulate someone who is losing it, to give them the gift of mercy, that it's okay. Like, you can feel this way, but let me take you, and let me not have you turn over completely to chaos and losing it. That it's okay. I understand, and I'm here. You know, I did like that part because I was like, okay, like it wasn't Laya even at the end that killed him. You know, there was still this whole like other step. So yeah, but I still cannot get over Harper's death. It's still going to be like, I'm so angry about it. I'm so angry about it, Dawn.
You're preaching.
But
yeah, you're preaching to the choir with that one. And this is what I was talking about in my dislike section about the Nightbringer and his whole motive. That whole, I hate everybody, I'm just going to eradicate the whole world. I've seen that so many times in books. And when that was his motive, I was like, that's why I was like, really? This is what we're doing? Yeah, I didn't like it. And I mean, this guy has been fighting this war for thousands of years. And then Leah finally just says, hey, I've suffered too. You don't see me acting like an asshole. And then he's like, okay. Oh, come on. Really? That's it? I mean, I know she's been working on him and working him for a while, but even at the very end, he kills Darren. And then finally he gets a clue. I was just like, okay. And that was it for me between Harper and the Nightbringer and that BS. I was just like, 375. I can't.
Overall, I'm actually glad that Laya's new role is to become the keeper of stories, and what that looks like. I really am glad that at the end that she did forgive the Nightbringer for all of the pain and the sorrow that has come with loving him. I actually did like the fact that she loved him, because I feel like, you know, it just shows that everyone is capable of that. We're all capable of loving. We're all capable of also making mistakes and then forgiving. Like, this is all a cycle that we as humans are able to do. And I liked that her promise to him was that I will remember your story and I will tell it as though it should be told, not as you being painted this bad guy, because he wasn't originally this bad guy. So his daddy did him wrong, you know? And he decided, well, I'm going to take you out, and I'm going to take you out, and I'm going to do whatever I have to do, no matter what, you know. And I agree with what you said. I was glad that Laya actually felt sorrow for killing one of the Jinn, because I'm like, well, there's still humanity in her. She's not completely taken over by this need for revenge and death and destruction. Whereas Karis, unfortunately, had succumbed to that. With hers, you know, and I was upset about that, because I'm like, okay, like, yes, her mom was like tortured and butchered in front of her, basically, and her people. But I still am like, okay, so what else drove her crazy, wild need for blood rage?
I don't know.
I don't understand that.
Well, I guess her lover was killed in front of her too. Harper's dad and Elias's dad. I guess that too. But still, I was like reading this book and I'm like, okay, so she's massacring thousands of people. If she becomes the empress, ain't nobody gonna be left to pay taxes. She gonna be poor. That was my whole logic of her killing people. Like, ain't nobody gonna be there to pay you taxes. Then what are you gonna do? What job are you gonna get?
Nothing. They're all dead.
Exactly.
Well, we totally appreciate you guys hanging out with us today. If you guys have any suggestions for the novel universe for the year 2021, we would love to hear that. Please comment below in our comment section.
Yep.
Rate and review us. Follow us. And if you haven't started following us, please follow us on the Novel Pod on Instagram. And we'll catch you in the next podcast.
Wait a minute. It's a Novel Universe Pod. Novel Universe Pod? One of those.
It's one of them.
It's one of them. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.